I am happy to present you today some features about how to use WikiData to fight misinformation. Okay, as you already know, misinformation is increasing at speed rate more quickly over years because of social networks and the spread of internet all over the world. There are many works that are done by non-governmental, governmental institutions, research institutions, etc., to fight misinformation as it causes many dire effects on society. Okay, one perspective is what is called the Symantec Web. When Tim Berners-Lee invented the Symantec Web, he thought about having a centralized kind knowledge base that can be readable by machine and that can be used to verify all the pages that are available nowadays in internet. You see, as you see in this slide. Well, this is what internet looks like before on the left, and on the right, on middle, let's say it's middle. This is what should internet be. Okay, there are many ways of letting this semantic web and this structured knowledge base consistent. It begins with proof and logic, and it ends with schema, with logical constraints, etc. Okay, Wikidata is one of the main semantic web resources that can be used in such a purpose. Well, the principle of Wikidata is simple. Every item is language independent and has plenty of labels and descriptions in many languages, and each item is linked to each other using kind of statements in the form of triples that can be extracted automatically using Sparkle, using APIs, and many programmatic options that are available right now. Okay, the Wikidata has been evolving over years, and now, after 8 years of work, it counts 1,200,000 statements for over 90, let's say 90 million items. Okay, the items of Wikidata cover many fields, including humans, glands, chemical compounds, films, etc. So it is very rich. So how can we use Wikidata to fight misinformation? First, we can add references to unsupported statements in Wikidata to verify its output, and then using the output to verify facts online. And the second, we can add information about the misinformation efforts in Wikidata, and then using a dashboard to track misinformation fighting efforts all over the world so that there will be no replication of the actions that are done worldwide. Okay, I will begin with the first option, which is adding references to Wikidata. Well, Wikidata assigns a reference to each statement to verify, to let it verifiable by users. It is the same principle as in Wikipedia. Well, sometimes, like in Wikipedia, some statements are not supported by references. So we came up during the misinfocom call with an idea that uses citation indexes, probably Google Scholar, it can be Web of Science, it can be PubMed, but we use PubMed Central here. to have references and then verify that the statements that are not verified yet, that are just entered by users. Okay, so what we have done, we extracted the subject and the predicate and the object, the triple, constituting the unsupported statement. We formulated a query using the search engine of PubMed Central. We searched for relevant paper. We verified that the three labels are existing in the abstracts of the paper. We eliminated retracted and outdated papers. And then we found the Wikidata ID of the papers that are identified as references. And then we add them to Wikidata to support the statements. Okay, what we found as a result is that we tested the statement, the bot, the idea on 5,384 Wikidata statements. All these statements are about medicine. Well, among these 5,000 statements, there are 451 statements that are assigned 842 references. Well, what we found out is that 47.4 of the references that were not assigned a reference are occurred, but they were not assigned a reference because the literature uses a synonym and not the label that is assigned in Wikidata. Among the references that were assigned, we found that 97.3% are accurate. And although we used sample heuristics, we did not get into details and into robust deep learning and machine learning techniques. Well, the reasons of the accurate the 2% are linked using more than one type of semantic relations. For example, it can be SARS-CoV-2 is different from COVID-19. SARS-CoV-2 it causes COVID-19, so it can be a confusion here. There are also infection, but the reference deal with fever as a symptom of viral infection. And there is also the problem of denegation. For example, X is a risk factor of Y, while the reference say that X is not the risk factor for Y. Okay, when we saw the recent initiative in this context, we saw that the new project has been came up by Wikimedia Deutschland that uses semantic databases and particularly the external identifiers to see if the statements in Wikidata that are not supported by references exist in other references and then use the other external resource as a reference for it. Okay, let's move now to the second option of how to use Wikidata to find misinformation. Well, Wikidata can be easily queryable using Sparkle. You can generate plenty of visualizations using the query service with a couple or tens of lines. Okay, but in order to do that, you need to feed Wikidata with data before. You need to add the bibliography of, for example, of the efforts dealing with misinformation. And here there are 5 steps that can be done with quick statements that can be used in such a purpose. First, you have to create a Nexus spreadsheet for the data you need to upload to Wikidata. And then you substitute the category, if any, with the Wikidata ID. After that, you search for the entries in Wikidata because you should not create duplicates in Wikidata. If an entry exists in Wikidata, it's better to enrich it rather than create a duplicate, and then it will be difficult to identify them and to solve the problem later. And then there is another step that consists of building a model for creating the quick statement batch lines, and then run the batch on quick statements. Well, we'll show how to do that in details. Well, what we have done with a dashboard of COVID-19, we have a table like this. You see, the table includes information about everything. So what we have done is that we have done a model like this, which is a model describing the statements that we would not like to include to Wikidata. The way this format was inspired from was derived from this instruction here. There is a help page for quick statements on Wikidata that explains in detail how to do that and how to assign label, how to write labels, how to write the statements that you need to add, etc., including location, quantity, etc., with the references, how to add references, etc. So there is a full documentation for that. And then we just apply the model this to each line for that document to have a batch like this one with plenty of statements like this. Then we copy that and paste it here. We just go to the website of quick statements, quickstatements.tollforce.org, and click new batch, and we just copy that batch that we created and paste it here, and then click on H1 import V1 comments, and then start the batch, and it will be added automatically and fluently to to Wikidata, I mean. Okay, the one last thing, why if, for example, your dataset is about an initiative or a scholarly paper, how to verify if this scholarly paper exists? In fact, if you have its GOI or its ISBN of the resource you have, you can verify it using a tool which is called Hub, the Wikidata Hub. In fact, the principle is simple. You just try to paste it, to paste the identifier, the external identifier of the entity, and then the tool will return the Wikidata ID of the item if it exists in Wikidata, and if it does not exist, it will return nothing. And as you see here, the format is JSON, so you can use it in your bot, etc. And in a simple way, you can eliminate the application of entities or creating duplicate items in Wikidata. Okay. Last and not least, why should we add a bibliography on Wikidata? Well, the reason for that is that anyone can enrich your work later, because Wikidata is open. Anyone can enrich it with their own bibliography related to, for example, to misinformation related to COVID-19 pandemic, or for example, can enrich it with references that you don't have in your bibliography, or for example, with citation data from open citations. And the sum of these information can be used to create advanced visualization of your data to kind of create a dashboard for works related to misinformation, particularly related to COVID-19 pandemic. Well, let me show you some visualization we have here. For example, here I searched for papers related to misinformation related to COVID-19, and it gave me 475 results, as you see here. Okay, so then I searched for the collaboration network of between others of the works related to misinformation, and I found this kind of collaboration network between the authors of paper linked to misinformation related to COVID-19 pandemic. You can see here the networks, the groups of others that are who are working together about the topic. And when you click, you can see further information that might not exist in your dataset. For example, the affiliation of the scientist, his or her gender, etc., etc. This is a visualization about the journals that published, or the repositories that published papers about misinformation related to COVID-19 pandemic. And you see here the journals are well represented. You see here the Journal of Medical Internet Research, the BMG, the British Medical Journal, PLOS ONE, represented, etc., etc. And all these visualizations are updated as soon as the papers are increasing in Wikidata. The coverage of papers related to misinformation about COVID-19 pandemic are increasing. Okay. The next visualization I have here is the list of topics that are occurring with misinformation related to COVID-19 pandemic. You see here COVID-19 pandemic, etc., etc. So you can easily extract it. And last and not least, I searched for the topics of interest for the authors of these papers before the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019 and before. And I found that the authors have dealt with mental health, with teenagers, with scholarly publishing, with social media, with decision making, with psychiatry in general, with global health, maternal health, etc., and even about fake news, etc., and even about some previous pandemics. For example, the Ebola, and there is later the Zika pandemic, the HIV as well. So it generates a lot of data that did not exist in the original data set. Okay, so this is all what I have here. So we come here to the conclusion. Okay. The conclusion: it is easy to use Wikidata to track and encourage misinformation fighting. Further efforts are needed to turn Wikidata into a centralized knowledge base for fighting misinformation. And we can make use of advanced machine learning and deep learning techniques, as well as of word embedding, semantic similarity, and topic modeling to increase the functions of Wikidata in the context of misinformation fighting. So finally, this is the list of the credits for the images that I used in this work. These are the references, mainly the two misinfocom blogs posts that I have written. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.